Okay, we're talking with Carol McKinley, and Carol wrote a great piece for the Daily Beast about James Kohler's new book. Now, James Kohler is the police chief for Telluride, but at one time he was the an investigator in the DA's office when Mary Lacey was district attorney in Boulder. He was the head guy for the JonBenet Ramsey case, and he had access to everything. And basically what it was, he came to realize that the likelihood of an intruder was pretty much gone. And he made his presentation to Mary Lacey and said, we need to look at the people inside the house. And she rolled her eyes, and he knew his time was short there. He quit, went back to Telluride, attempted to write the governor. At the time it was Governor Owens, trying to get him to do something. Nobody would do anything. Everybody ignored him. He took his own money, and he wrote this book. And it is I just heard from him, and it's like number 30 on Barnes & Noble. That's pretty good.
Really?
For a self-published book. Self-published.
Are you kidding?
He did this. No, he just wrote me and just said it's number 30 today. And for a self-published book, that's got to be good. And we haven't heard from Lynn Wood. Now, I have two thoughts. Now, Lynn Wood is Ramsey's attorney. And I'm going to back up here. I'm going to backpedal just a little bit. In the book, he discussed a lot about John and Patsy and about Burke. Now, Burke's a very sensitive subject. Nobody is accusing Burke of killing his sister. Nobody is accusing anybody. We don't know what happened. But Lynn Wood sued a lot of people and organizations on behalf of Burke Ramsey. And so it's a very sensitive subject. But he talks about Burke in the book. And you know what? It's very... a lot of new stuff is revealed. Several new things are revealed. Here are my two schools of thought, Carol. Number one, Lynn Wood is going to ignore it because he knows if he tries to sue, it's going to bring everything up because this guy knows what he's doing. He's not some big corporate agency that will just, settle for a few pennies. He will get those people under oath, and that's it, and he knows what to ask. So it would be in Lynn Wood's best interest to ignore it and let it fade away, or he's going to do what Lynn Wood does best, and that's sue everybody. What do you think? Any ideas?
I can't really comment on Lynn Wood. The Ramseys sued Fox News when I had a story, I think, on the 6th anniversary. We're the only people who ever were able to have our case dismissed.
That's right. The judge dismissed the case. And right.
Actually, Lynn Wood and I hadn't spoken since that time, and he and I were very cordial for the piece that I wrote. He took my calls, he answered my questions, and that was very helpful. To have him.
Fox News was.
We actually had a good relationship in the writing of this piece. So.
That's good. Well, Fox News.
I really don't want to comment on Lynn Wood.
Understood. Fox News. Say what you want about them. When they got the lawsuit dismissed by Lynn Wood, filed it, and they got it dismissed. They stood up to Lynn Wood, and that's what I've learned. When you stand up to him, he sometimes will back down. But it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. Because, like I said, I don't think Kohler is one that you want to mess around with. Let me ask you something. Again, this is all just opinion. Everybody calm down. We're not saying anything. We're not saying this absolute fact. But Mary Lacey, would there ever be the slightest chance of an obstruction of justice, a reprimand, a slap on the wrist, anything for her horrible behavior in the investigation of the Ramseys?
Gosh, I don't know. Stan Garnett's told me that the exoneration letter she wrote will make it harder if this case ever goes to trial, just because people can bring that up. But he doesn't feel that it would ruin a case if they had a smoking gun. He feels that he could defend against it. If there was a smoking gun on behalf of the Ramseys. But I can't answer that question. She doesn't even feel by law anymore. She told me she's retired and she's traveling. She's going to Hawaii next week.
What was very frustrating about Mary Lacey is she did this letter of exoneration of the Ramseys, claiming the DNA exonerated them when the DNA did nothing of the sort. The DNA is an artifact, and Kohler pretty much proves that in his book. But she never took one question. She never held a press conference. She never sat down for an interview. And to me, that proves that someone is a coward. If they can't defend what their decisions are, then they're a coward. And I to say I have no respect for Mary Lacy puts it very, very gently.
I thought it was when Jim told me, that the part in James Kohler's book about the extra DNA, the touch DNA that was found on the garrote and on the cords that were on her wrist, and then he also counts the DNA into the fingernails that we'd always discount. Mm-hmm. She didn't know about the DNA on the cord or on the garrote. She told me that had not been developed when she came out and exonerated them. It was Andy Jarito. I think he was one of her attorneys in the office. He was a DNA specialist. He's the one who presented that extra DNA at the task force. I asked her about that.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you talk about this extra DNA? If that's unexplained as well. And she said, well, we took the panties and we wanted to know about the DNA that was in the crotch and we wanted to know about the DNA on the waistband, but we didn't. I didn't know about the other DNA. And then it was Andy, her assistant, who also brought the new DNA forward. I was a little surprised that she said she didn't know about it.
I'm wondering if she's, in my opinion, conveniently forgotten, because to exonerate somebody when you don't have everything tested, again, is beyond reprehensible.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they went back with this new touch DNA technique and looked at the murder weapons. I just don't know. I know the flashlight had been wiped down. The flashlight had that kind of crisscross raised metal that a lot of those mag lights do, so they couldn't get a good fingerprint or DNA swab off of it. But I just don't know the answer to that. But to me, to have that much DNA that in critical places that doesn't match anyone, raises a lot of questions. And Lynn Wood made a good point. He said it's DNA that still doesn't belong to the Ramseys. It doesn't identify them either.
But what about the ransom note and all the lies that the Ramsey have told? They keep focusing on this DNA, and it's a red herring. It's like they've got a piece of tinfoil that's real shiny over here while you're ignoring the big elephant in the room, and that's the ransom note, which we've gone over and over again. I just think it's going to be very, very interesting to see how this unfolds, because I think it's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. And here's the beauty of it. James Kohler has no dog in this hunt. He used his own money. He doesn't have anything to prove. He has everything to lose. So he's pretty much untouchable when it comes to his reasonings behind it. Everybody else you can, kind of taint, not that it's true, but you can, throw some stuff at him and maybe make it stick, maybe not. I mean, I love Steve Thomas's book. I thought it was great. But a lot of people would say, well, he quit and made a lot of money. I don't think he made a lot of money, but he did quit and write a book. So, this guy, he didn't write the book until after the Governor Owens, totally ignored him, and he just went, enough. I can't sleep. He didn't say he can't sleep. That's me. But he said, I can't,
He couldn't. I was getting emails from him at 3 o'clock in the morning. I would get like this email from him but he did, he is, did he tell you the profits from the book are going to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children?
Yes, if there are profits.
If there are any,
right.
So he is going to donate that money.
Right. He's not going to take it. So there's no way that anybody on the Ramsey team can go in and say, you're doing this for, the only reason why he's doing it is for justice for John Benet Ramsey and to get the truth out. And what's frustrating, too, we're talking with Carol McKinley, who wrote the article for the Daily Beast about James Kohler's new book, A Foreign Faction Who Really Kidnapped John Benet Ramsey. What's really frustrating to me is I want to know what is in the grand jury testimony, because that sounds explosive. Wouldn't that be great if we could hear that, Carol?
I'm starting to think, and I don't know for sure, but I'm starting to think that they were asked not to write a report.
Oh, you know what? I would bet money on it. I would.
Really?
I would bet if I had $1 million, I would bet that Hunter said, thank you very much for your help and goodbye. Because if you listen to, we've talked about this a lot, if you listen to Alex Hunter's statement after the grand jury, he said the grand jury has concluded there will be no indictment. He never said they voted. He never said they voted for no indictment. He just said they've concluded there'll be no indictment. It was a very interesting play on words. I guarantee can't guarantee, but as close as I can, I would bet they never were asked ever to vote for anything.
Yeah, and I remember at the time Mike Cain and I had become friends. He was a grand jury prosecutor, and I had my cameraman zoom in on Michael Cain because I wanted to see what his reaction was. He didn't tell me anything about what was going on in the grand jury ever when we were talking. He would give me information here and there. But when Alex Hunter announced that, Michael Cain was looking up at the sky. His lower lip was trembling.
Oh,
he was
wow.
Very upset while he was standing there. But no one really saw him because they were all looking at Alex Hunter.
Now, there's one guy, Michael Cain, the person who...
the whole thing. I do think Michael thinks they should have done something and felt like all of his hard work had gone for naught.
I would love to interview Michael Cain.
Yeah, and I called him, too, for this article, and he never called me back. I think he doesn't... A lot of people do not want to talk about this case again. They're just done with it. They don't want to...
Why do you...
it up.
Do you think they just are done? They just don't... They gave it their all, and there's nothing else, maybe? They're just fed up?
I think it hurts. It hurts too much.
Mm-hmm. Michael Cain was the prosecutor that presented it to the grand jury. Very nuts and bolts type guy, just the facts, someone that you could really hang your hat on and really trust, and he is one person I would love to interview. Kim, sir, do we have any questions coming from the chat room? My chat room is not working for some reason.
Oh, well, that's okay. What kinds of comments did you get on the book this week? Are people reading it? Or?
Oh, people are loving it. People are absolutely loving it. They, it's just all positive. It's amazing. It is, because it's a great book. That's the other thing. Even if you're not into the case at all, it's a great read. It's it builds and builds and builds, and you can feel the frustration as he comes onto the case and starts to, it's just, I predict it's going to be quite the seller, if you will.
Well,
I'm sorry, Kim, sir, did you say?
Go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead, Carol.
Well, just one thing I said in the article that I wrote for the Daily Beast was that I thought this was going to read like a Ramsey case encyclopedia, because even though a lot of the information that was in the book we had heard before or had been referenced before, it never was really written down.
Right.
Perfect Murder, Perfect Town was a good one for up until the time it was written, but a lot happened after that, and so James Kohler at least provided some documentation. There's record now of a guy who saw all this stuff, and now if you can say, oh, what happened with the, with the pineapple? Oh, that's page 74. So then you look at from the police point of view, from the investigative side. You can at least, he told me that he wanted to write this book for the Boulder Police Department, who never could speak, because they never really did. There were a couple of leaks. There were a lot of leaks early on, but after that, the Boulder Police Department just kept their lips zipped, and so Jim felt like he needed to write the book for the Boulder cops who were getting crucified.
And it does really...
Cops, you hear that all the time. You still hear it. Right.
It does really show that the cops really did a good job, everything considered. So, I'm sorry, Kim, sir, did you say there were or were not any questions?
I have a question from Steely Dan, and he wants to know if anyone thinks that after the John Mark Carr fiasco that the DA is reluctant to do anything else on this case due to embarrassment.
I don't think John Mark Carr would stop Stan Garnett from doing anything. Whenever I talk to Garnett, he says, the police have it now. I gave it to them. When they're ready, I'm ready. I think if there were anything that developed that really looked like it was a smoking gun, again, not circumstantial, but something where they could really go after somebody, he would do it. But I don't think John Mark Carr is going to stop anybody. Stop Stan Garnett.
Well, that's good to hear, but I don't see anybody coming forward and saying, here's what happened.
Well,
even if I just don't see it happening.
Well, and Mark Bettner, when I was talking to him about this, he's like, there's nothing, we don't have anything active right now. If someone turns something in, we'll go after it, but we've got a department to run. There's not a whole lot going on.
Right, there's other cases. Well, Carol, I promise you.
The stuff, Jim, the stuff in the book, they've done all they can. That's what Bettner told me. He said, we looked after everything we could, even the train track. I mean, they don't have the train track. They have a picture of some train tracks from the house. They don't have the actual train track. You can't go to trial on something like that.
Right. Right,
so
even though it's
Jim
common.
Kohler's leads are not, they're not going to solve the murder.
Right. Exactly right. But what they do show in Jim Kohler's book, they do show that what happened, how it all went down as far as inside the DA's office, and that in itself is worth the read. Absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. No. It absolutely. Yeah. That was very interesting. Him coming to the conclusion that he did, feeling ignored. It's just one more chapter in the dysfunction of the case. Dysfunction
is right. Carol, I promise you we'd only keep you for 30 minutes. You've been working like crazy. We actually woke you up.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I just had a little time to lie down, but thank you so much. You guys are wonderful, and you guys do a great job going into the nooks and crannies of the information, and I thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Carol. You're always someone we can depend on. And name the person that you're the producer for on ABC again.
Oh, his name's Clayton Sandell.
I know who that is. He does a great job, and it's because of you. That's all I can say. So, okay, Carol, thank you so much.
All right.
You take care. Go get some rest, okay?
Okay, bye-bye.